I knew nothing. Everything's top secret. Everything. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell you. You have to sign NDAs before you audition. I would probably be fired at the very least. Security came in, carried him off the set. Oh my God, you're Wanda.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the DaneMellowsTalks podcast. It's a very special episode. We've got someone dialed in all the way from California, and before I introduce you, I've actually wrote you a little introduction on here. So, moving from Russia to San Francisco when you was very young, you've seen her in your favourite TV shows and movies such as WandaVision, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Jungle Cruise, Ted, Nowhere Girl, just to name a few. And on top of all that, she's then gone and got a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree in communications. Ladies and gentlemen, Ilana Kohanchi, how is it going?
Wow, thank you. It's great. What an introduction. I'll expect no less from now on from anyone.
Yeah.
Anywhere I go, I want that.
We set the standard here, the top of the top, honestly. Well, yeah, how are you then? Thank you very much for coming on today.
Of course. No, I'm so happy to be here.
Good, but I'm very glad. So I thought we could get started on your beginnings in acting, really. So how I already mentioned then how you moved from Russia to America. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So, I came when I was about 3 years old, 2.5. So can't say I had a whole lot to do with it.
The decision was all in your hands there, yeah.
Yeah, clearly. The immigration was me. I don't even know how my mother did that, like to think that she was my age or younger and moved to a new country with 2 kids and not speaking the language is just crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
But she did it. I just went along for the ride and didn't have much say in the matter. But we came to this country. So I grew up in the United States, obviously in California, which is a beautiful place to grow up. And I started acting when I was about 5. So I want to say we came to the States, I was 3. So about a couple of years in, probably around the time I started school.
Mm-hmm.
The first school I went to was an art school where they focused on theater and dramatic art and things like that. And it was probably just a way for, my mom to get like babysitting. But I, unfortunately for her, fell in love with it. And around that time, I announced to my family that I was going to do this as a career, that I was going to, be an actress when I grow up.
Yeah.
And, parents, they think, oh, she's a child, tomorrow she'll want to be a princess. It's okay. This'll pass kind of thing.
Yeah.
And a little bit of time passed and I was still very focused on acting. And I did like the after school classes and things. And then I said, I'm really going to do this. And then they got worried and they're like, no, honey, you're going to be a doctor.
the very planned out route of you will be a doctor, not an actor. Yeah.
Right. And so, to their dismay, I was like, maybe I'll play one on TV. And then, I sort of kept at it. And I went to a French school in San Francisco growing up. So it was like an immersion sort of thing, had all the classes in French. Right. And I did drama there, and we didn't really have, because it was a private school, so there wasn't a whole lot of like after school programs and plays and everything, but we did have like a pretty serious drama program, and French people take everything seriously. I was in one class, I was in the drama class, and I remember I was in middle school. I was around 12, and we had to do, there was this like citywide drama festival with all of the the French schools in the city.
Oh, wow.
Would come and they would bring judges from France and whatever, and they would judge these different pieces. And so one day, by the way, I'm not French, I'm Russian, right?
Yeah,
but I did grow up in a French school, and so I definitely understood that culture, and they're very just matter of fact. You're European, and so one day the drama teacher came out. And he said, okay, we're going to this festival and we're going to need to win. So I've decided in order to make that happen, we're going to do a monologue and Ilana is going to do it.
Oh, wow. Talk about pressure.
Right. And I was like, wait, what? And also I wasn't like that popular as a kid.
Right.
So I'm like, great, this is gonna be another reason for the kids to make fun of me.
Oh.
And so, but he was like, well, this is just the way it is because we need to win. And of course all the kids looked at me like, and I was a little bit surprised like that he said it like that, but I was kind of flattered and excited, And so I was like, all right, well, I guess this is the way it is. And then, I went up to him and I said, wouldn't you have asked for volunteers or, something like that to choose between? I didn't even know this was happening. And he was like, no, this is our honor. We need to win. Like, it's going to be you. And so I was like, great. And so I did it, and I did win.
Well done. I was hoping that was where the story was going. It would have been a very sad story.
yeah. It would be really sad if it wasn't, right? That would suck, huh? So then, and I remember like we came to the festival and that was sort of my first like big, I mean, it's silly, right? Because I was like 12 years old, but it was sort of my first taste of what it would be like to do this in front of a lot of people versus like just me playing pretend in my school with other kids. I was like, oh, like I can do this like in front of a city, like this is
successfully
cool.
as well. You can not only do it, but you can go and win something as big as that.
Well, successful against a handful of schools. It wasn't like this was not at all what it is like to compete in Los Angeles in Hollywood for actual roles on TV. But, within that realm of being a child, for me at the time, it was something of a big deal.
It's big, yeah.
And again, I mentioned like I wasn't that cool as a kid because I talked too much and, I was into acting and everything. And I was also really small, like really short. But at that moment, I remember when I came out on that stage, the entire school went nuts with applause and everyone was standing up and cheering for me. And I was like, what's going on? Like, I'm not cool. Like, why
I didn't think you guys liked me. What?
I still don't think they did. I mean, of course my friends did, but I still don't think they did. But I think that they were also caught up in like this sort of school spirit that you don't really get in a private school. The same way you would in public school with like, football games and cheerleaders stuff they have in the movies. But we didn't really have that. So this was the only thing. And they were like, this is our chance to win. Like Ilana can do it, And so there was just this sort of uproar and then everyone was like going nuts. And I was like, wow, this is cool. But that's not why I did it. Right.
It's always nice to have people cheering you on the side as well, especially like a whole community like that behind you.
That was cool.
Yeah.
And so then I thought, and then I was like, okay, now I'm really sure. So I was sure at 5, I was sure at 7. Now at 12, I was like, there's no way I'm doing anything else.
Yeah.
Right. And then, so I continued studying. I had never worked as an actress. This was all just training through high school. And then when I graduated, I was 17 and I told my mom, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this professionally, like it or not. And unfortunately, with my background, Russian Jewish, it's sort of like saying you're going to go be a prostitute. Like it is like the worst thing. So they were appalled. My whole family was like, no, how could this happen to us? And I was like, well, sorry, this is what it is. Like you paid for my acting classes,
it's your fault if you think about it.
Yeah, well, they thought it would be a hobby, and I was like, I can't live doing anything else. Like this is it for me.
Yeah.
And I just had this crazy passion and I was like, okay, so what do I have to do for it to be okay with you for me to move to Los Angeles and pursue this professionally? Because I grew up in San Francisco, which I know it seems like it's all California, but California is big, right?
Yeah.
And as 17, I wasn't even an adult yet. The idea of like moving away and, being it's like 6 hours away from home. It's a big deal.
It's a while away. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then they said, okay, here's what you can do. I was like, well, what do I need to do to sort of be allowed to go? And they're like, well, you need a PhD first. And I was like, I don't think I can get a PhD that quickly. By the time I move to LA, I'll be so old. So old. But, in my 17-year-old mind, so old. So I said, okay, let's settle. I was like, master's.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, here's what I can do. I was like, I'll get through my classes faster. I'll do this quick. I'll hand you my degrees and then I can move. And they're like, deal. So I ended up doing my bachelor's in 3 years instead of 4. So I got my bachelor's when I was 20 and I went straight to grad school. And then I got my master's at 22. And during grad school, I was, as a way to sort of pay for my master's degree, because again, that was part of this sort of deal that I would be allowed to leave. I taught public speaking to the undergrads because I was a communications major.
Yes.
As a way to pay for the master's program. And when I did that, it was sort of funny because all these students, these undergrads, were older than me. So I was like, because I was 20 and some of them are like 22, in senior university. So that was fun, so I did that. And around that time, I sort of started working. I dipped my toes in. I got an agent in San Francisco, and San Francisco is a pretty small pond, in terms of the film industry. But I got, a really good agent for San Francisco. And I started getting jobs. But when I say jobs, at the time it was like, non-union indie films, like with Billy and a Goat. Right. It was like, it wasn't all that. I was making like 3.5 cents. But that's okay because
he was paying your dues with it.
Right. And I got credits, and that's what I needed to do.
Yeah.
And pay my dues, like you said. Yeah. So I did that, and I packed my bags, and I handed my, master's degree over to my mother, and I moved to Los Angeles. And when I got there, I expected, red carpets to roll out because I was like, well, Ilana has arrived. I mean, clearly I have all these years of training. I've been training since I was a kid. Yeah. I have the handful of whatever credits that I did in San Francisco of these like independent things. And, I'm ready. So here I am. And of course I did not get the red carpet.
Yeah. It doesn't seem that easy.
Not at all. It was sort of a rude awakening, and I got there and everyone was like, who are you and why do we care? And the beginning was really tough. Like nobody would see me, no one would give me an opportunity because they didn't know who I was. And so it took sort of this time of like learning the business and learning the hustle and getting people to know who I was and know that I was good and know that I could deliver, again and again in auditions and to get those auditions. The hardest part is getting auditions. It's a hell of a lot harder than getting a job.
Right. Okay.
Once you have an audition, it's still really, really hard to get a job. You're still up against several other very qualified individuals, but getting the audition, you're up against thousands. Once you get the audition, you're up against 10 or 20 or, whatever it may be.
You've passed that first stage there. And then at least then you've got a solid chance.
You've got a solid chance. I mean, maybe not as good of a chance as anyone because a name will always get picked first and et cetera, but as good of a chance as anyone at your level, let's say.
Yeah.
And so, and so they have their favorites and they might, those slots will get taken, so stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but once people know who you are sort of in the community, it becomes a lot easier. So years down the road, once I started getting credits, like legitimate credits, things became a lot easier because then I actually had a chance to get auditions and I had a chance to get in front of people, not all the auditions I want, unfortunately. But still, I still had these opportunities open up that I didn't have before just because now people were like, okay, I know who she is. I've seen her work, et cetera. So that became easier. And so I signed with my first agent in LA the day I moved there. Nice. I had started applying like 3 months before moving. I had sent out back then, things were very different, right? Now it's the digital age.
Is this headshots?
Headshots. We're talking 8x10 in an envelope with a resume and a cover letter, written and mailed to each company. And I sent out to everyone, which is really dumb, right? But I didn't know any better. Right. And so I didn't know, that like the top ones are referral only and the bottom, I didn't know any of that. So I just found a list online. I was like, there's 330 agencies in Los Angeles. I'll apply to all of them. The top third don't accept applications, by the way. All those went straight to the trash. But nonetheless, so I would sit there at a Kinko's, like printing out my headshot at the speed of like 5 minutes per headshot, to stuff it in an envelope and stamp and send these out. And I was just there, doing this all day. And I did this for months before I actually moved. And I got a handful of interviews, bottom of the barrel, went on those interviews. I was lucky that those ones accepted me, and I just chose who I thought was the best out of those, and I signed. And of course, I changed representatives a lot along the way, some really great ones and some not as great ones. But it was a start, and that's sort of how I began. And then I got to LA, and then I started to hustle a lot and learn, the business. And so I joke that my mom always wanted me to get like a degree in business or an MBA. And I was like, well, I got one in a way because Hollywood is all about the business, and that's sort of what I realized along the way was because I'm doing this for the love of the craft. Like I love acting. I have a passion for the art of it. But the business is sort of like, if you want to do it in Hollywood, if you want to do it on camera, if you want to do it professionally versus just, for fun, and it is fun, but to do it professionally, it's a whole other ball game. It's like the Olympics. And so it's not an easy business, and it's not a super great business, I would say, but it's a necessary one to make things run. And so that's what I learned along the way, and here I am now.
Here you are. Yeah. Well, I'm sure, like you say, it has got its highs and lows, but they come hand in hand from enjoying it and also being able to push yourself in that high end level.
Yeah.
And to obviously get onto shows like you've been on now, like I say, like WandaVision, Jungle Cruise, all things like that. Was there a specific moment where you either got a job or you was in some rehearsal or anything like that where you realised this has all been done for the right reason? There's no regrets kind of attitude with it? That's
such a good question. I want to think about it to give you like a very truthful answer.
Yeah.
So, okay, can I split it up a little bit?
Of course you can, yeah.
Okay, sorry, I talk a lot. This is just how it is.
That's amazing for a podcast, believe me.
Right? Okay, if you're asking about a moment of like, aha, I've made it.
Right.
I don't think I've had that moment yet because I haven't reached the goal that I want to reach for myself. I'm so grateful for the success that I have achieved. And, there would have been a time in the beginning of my career where if I could like breathe on set, next to some of the people that I've worked with and just be there and even like say one word on TV, I would have been like, that's it. Like, that's all I ever want. And
success reached, got it. Yeah.
But now, I'm like, that's not my long-term goal. Like, I'm very ambitious. So like one day I want to win an Oscar, I want to do work that I think is meaningful. I want to do projects I love. There's so many things I want to do. And like my first like goal or my next upcoming goal is like, I really want a series regular. That's sort of where I'm at right now, which would be just like a stable job on a TV show where I play the same character, hopefully a really good TV show that's on the air for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And so that I could just like play the same character and really like kind of dig into it and, love someone like that, because you love your characters, you kind of like hold them in your heart.
The longer you're with a character as well, the better you will become with them as well, and the more your true self can shine through that character as well.
Exactly, right? And you get to know them sort of in a way like you would get to know another person, and you become it's a whole thing, right? So that's where I'm at right now. Like that, once I get that, I think, and I hope, and you can talk to me again when that happens, hopefully this year, then I can hopefully tell you like, okay, I feel like I've made it, at least for the time being. Doesn't mean I won't have more ambition, but just for that.
Oh, yeah.
But I have had moments where I felt like, oh, like this is what I dreamed about before.
Right, okay.
You know what I mean? I've had those moments. I haven't had that I've made it, because I don't think I've made it quite yet. Yeah. But I've definitely had moments where I was like, wow, like this is like, I've literally had dreams of this moment, and now I'm here.
So like what's an example of one of those moments then? Would it been like being around certain actors or being on set somewhere that you've always wanted to be, working for a production company?
I was doing a spot for Ted, the movie Ted with Seth MacFarlane.
Yes.
And Seth MacFarlane was there, and he was directing it, and he's like, one of the nicest people to work with, and just, really funny, really cool. And it was really early on. I had only been in LA a couple years, and I didn't know, this is embarrassing to say, but I didn't know a lot back then about, stuff. And so when I went for the audition.
Oh no, the horror story.
When I went in for the audition. So the audition is with the casting directors, right? So it's just you and the casting directors. And then when you go for the callback, you have everyone in the room. So it'll be like a panel. You have the director, producers, whatever, the commercial, you might have the clients, etc. Ad agency. So there's like a panel of people. So I was sort of used to just like coming in, call back, see a panel, do my thing, leave. Right. And I never focus on who's there, because it just isn't, it's not about that, other than like hearing their direction and what they want of me. But I'm really focused on, I'm there to defend my character. And
so as he should be. Yeah.
So I'm never like, oh, who's in the room? I don't even, whatever. It's not that I don't see them, but it's just, it's not about
you don't want it to phase you as well. You're focused on giving your best performance you can. So
right. And so I'm not really a nervous type of person. Like I kind of love to be in the spotlight. I'm weird like that. I was the weird kid who liked to be in front of the camera. And so I just, I don't have like, typically I don't really have those nerves and whatever. So I come in the room, I do the thing, and I leave, and I'm like, okay, so someone's giving me direction, great. And I leave. And after I booked the job, that it says, on the paper, then I remember my manager called me and was like, this is so great. This is directed by Seth MacFarlane, blah, blah, blah. Because no one knew what TED was back then because the movie hadn't come out yet.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh my God, Seth MacFarlane. And I look, and I know who he is, right? In my mind, like I know the name and I know what he's done, what he's worked on, but I never knew what he looked like.
Oh,
and so
no.
I didn't know that when I was in the callback, he was the one directing me. And so all these other girls who were there at the callback, I ended up having a significant advantage because they were all freaking out because they were like, oh my God, it's Seth MacFarlane. Oh my God. And I didn't even know that was him.
Yeah. You were just like this, just some random guy that's coming in for it.
Nice, pleasant looking dude is telling me what to do. Okay, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So I just did it. And then I realized when I was so embarrassed, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't even know that there's this celebrity sitting there, this famous director is sitting there directing me. And I just had no idea that was him because they don't release information ahead of time, right? So you only find out if you book the job who's who.
Yeah,
but they knew what he looked like. So they were all like, excuse me, shitting bricks when they came. And they were like, oh my, and I just had no idea. But when I did get on that set, I had a moment of knowing that I had achieved something.
Right, okay.
When I got there, my second embarrassing moment, I'm just giving you all the secrets.
This is the good stuff. So
when I got there, I walk into the set. And so I had been in hair and makeup. And this was my first like big thing that I had done, on a large scale, like TED and Seth MacFarlane and everything. And I walk onto the set and I was in the trailer. They had done my hair and makeup and everything. And I'm ready. And I had done the fitting. So, I was in the dress and I come out. And there's this girl standing there and they tell me, hi, Ilana, I think her name was Natalia. They say, hi, this is Natalia. And she's my height and she's got brown hair and she's wearing the same dress. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm fired. I was like, they're introducing my replacement. Like, this is really mean. And then they go, this is your stand-in. And I was like, yes, but I didn't even know. I was like, I have a stand-in? Like, who am I to have a stand-in?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So if you don't know, I can tell you I don't know if you know what a stand-in is. But typically when you're on set, actors will get paid whatever X amount. And so whenever they're doing lighting and stuff, that takes about 20 minutes to set up each shot. They need someone to stand there, to set up the shot. And then the actor comes in so that the actor's not working like the whole time. And also so that they don't have to pay them for, extended time. So they'll have stand-ins in between. But you don't have stand-ins on like a very low budget, like an indie thing or the kind of stuff I would have done before. You're doing your own like you're just there the whole time.
So hearing you had a stand-in, it's like, wow, this is a high production kind of thing. Yeah.
I was like, I have a stand-in. They're paying someone to stand there and pretend to be me when I'm not acting. Like, this is crazy.
To set it up for you, yeah.
Right. And so that I can like take a break and drink some water. Like, this is silly, what I mean? I was so used to doing it all myself. At that point, I would have literally like stood under the lights.
I'll stand there all day.
8 hours, 14 hours. In between, takes us like 20 minutes each time, but still. So I was like, that moment, I had a moment of what you're saying where I was like, I must have done something right.
Yeah, definitely.
If they're hiring, because it's much better than my first thought, which is I'm fired, and this is a really way of telling me that this is my replacement, and they're making me mirror.
Yeah, that's going from like a low of low to a high of highs, really.
And that's sort of the journey of an actor. It's like all just highs and lows.
Swings and roundabouts, yeah. So working on TED, that scene, great work in that scene, by the way. So what was it like filming it? I've not seen any of the behind the scenes of TED. Was it just like a Teddy Ted sat up at the table from you? And
okay. funny question. So CGI, right? So right. The way they do the CGI, and I didn't know this either until I got there, they have an actual teddy bear like a
Amazing.
small teddy bear, like a not alive, just
Wait, what?
I know. Breaking the secrets here.
Yeah.
Just a regular teddy bear. And what they do is, so I'm sitting across from I'm sitting across from no one. But then they bring in between like the takes, they bring in this little teddy bear and they sort of photograph him all around like 360. And then they motion cap Seth MacFarlane, because he voices the teddy bear. They put the little dots on his fingers and like all the little green things, whatever. And then he does all of the motions and the voice, and then they kind of CGI those things together. But the art department will bring in the teddy bear in between takes, and then they take the 360 pictures. But he's not even sitting there the whole time. So I'm across from no one. And Seth, who is directing it, is behind the camera yelling his lines like across the room, like 60 people. And I'm, responding to thin air, essentially. And then in between, they're bringing in this little teddy bear. And then they motion capture him after the fact. So that's how, those are the secrets.
That's the best. I was just really hoping that there was at some form an actual teddy bear there to put you in that scene, because I was like, that's amazing. Yeah. So other projects that you've worked on, I've done a few podcasts on Marvel before, and I'm quite big on the MCU and things like that. So WandaVision is I saw when you set your light up before.
I'm wearing my jacket. They gave me with my character's name on it, Irina Maximoff.
Amazing.
I decided to wear it for today.
Amazing, yeah. I remember when you went up to switch the light on before, I saw the Scarlet Witch crown on the back. Oh, that's so cool. That is so cool. Yeah, I kind of want one. I'm not gonna lie. So, what was it like working under a Marvel production? Was it very different to other parts that you played before? No different. No.
So different.
Oh, so different. Okay.
So different. So different because the Marvel Cinematic Universe, different for two reasons. Different because the fans are not only the best fans in the world, but the most intense. Like these people, and I can't even call myself like a fan the way that you guys are. I mean, the Marvel fans know everything from 20 years ago. They know every detail of every movie, but then this happened and this happened, and oh no, you can't do that. And then to the point where I had to learn, they gave me a coach, and a dialect coach, to learn Sokovian, which, as you know, Sokovia is a made-up country for Marvel, and it is a made-up language, which is similar to like Russian, or meant to be like an Eastern European thing. But to the point where I had the dialect coach who invented the language with me, and they had me take lessons with her. Her name's Courtney, and she's amazing, by the way, to teach me how to do, this accent and how to actually learn these words. And when I was on set and I sort of threw like a word out just without even thinking, when I was like running to the door to the husband, and I said something in Russian, like coming or whatever, and then they're like, cut. And then she comes running out and like, no, that's not Sokovian. The fans are going to know. You can't say that. You can't. And I was like, oh, okay.
So strict on it. Yeah.
And it was really like, you had to so they're very serious. Like the fans will know everything. And if anything doesn't make sense or anything, and it's just so incredible that these writers are that talented, that they can pull all of this together in this whole universe from 20 years ago and not make any mistakes or any continuity errors, because the fans will know and they'll uproar. Something's off, they'll be like, no, because in the last movie that wasn't So everything has to be explained to a T. So in that way, it's amazing.
Yeah.
The other side of it is that nobody is as strict as Marvel when it comes to not letting secrets out.
Yeah.
Like if I would have said anything to anyone about anything, they would probably shoot me.
Yeah, you've got a constant sniper lined up on you.
I'm not kidding. And like, that's not an exaggeration. On set, there are signs everywhere that say like, no cell phones. If you see anyone with a cell phone, call security. If anyone's taking pictures, when I came to that set, okay, so usually on every set, you have like a call sheet, which is like your schedule, for the day. You have your sides printed. Your sides are like your script or whatever, your lines, printed on like a little mini paper, so that you could, or a little mini paper with staples, so you could put it in your pocket in between. You could stick stuff like that. They give you all your contracts. They give you a parking pass. They give all your badge. There's a ton of stuff, right? Every time I have left a set, I always leave with all of that. This is just the way it goes.
Yeah.
When I left the Marvel set, I gave them my clothes, right? So you give them back the wardrobe. They took my parking pass. They took my call sheet. They took my size. It was like I was never there.
Wow.
If the show hadn't been released with me on it, no one would believe that I was over there. I had nothing. I had no proof. I'm like, I don't know. They probably would have like dusted my fingerprints so that it was so high tech. Like they're so intense about not telling anyone anything. So I knew nothing. When I was getting onto that set, I didn't know who my character was. I didn't know everything. Everything has a code name. You don't know the name of the show. You don't know anything until you're there, right? And then when you're there, you start to like get little bits of information.
Yeah.
And I remember I was in the trailer with Oleg, or Danyar, who played Oleg, and then the kids who played little Wanda and little Pietro, and we were all there, like with our scripts, just like piecing together, like what is this even about? Because we just only knew our portion, and we just didn't know that they don't give you the episode, they don't give you the script, nothing. So, but I understand why Marvel is like that, because they have to, years and years of writers, brilliant creative minds and secrets. And so, everything's top secret, everything. You have to sign NDAs before you audition. Not that you would know anything about what the audition is for anyway, but you sign NDAs for everything. And so you can't talk about anything until after it airs. And even then, I'm only telling you what I'm allowed to tell you.
So at what point did you realize that you was auditioning for a Marvel production, or did you go in knowing that you just weren't allowed to know which?
I knew that.
Right.
I knew that. So they'll say untitled Marvel production.
Right.
Is what it'll say. So just by how secretive they are at this point. Like if anyone's that secretive, I know it's Marvel. And then if it's commercial, if anyone's that secretive, I know it's Apple, because they're the only ones who are like
to the book about it.
So you just kind of know, at that point. But they always have a code name.
Okay, what was the code name for WandaVision?
I don't know if I'm allowed to tell you.
Oh, right, okay.
Okay, I guess I could tell you. Well, it's already over now. It was Big Red.
Big Red. Oh, that's quite cool. That is quite cool, yeah.
Yeah. But every production that I've worked on in that sort of world, they always have a code name.
Right, okay.
So no one really knows. So even if you somehow manage to get papers from the set, you wouldn't even know what they're for.
Because you hear the stories from all the Marvel actors about how they are so pressured on it, but I've never heard it in that much depth before, that it is so like hands-on that you like you say, if you would have left and told someone, I've just been on the set for Big Red, then they'd be like, not at all, I don't believe you.
I would probably be fired at the very least, and I wouldn't be surprised if I would have they would have pressed charges. It was they're so intense. They had told me a story of someone who I don't know the name, so I can't even tell you. But there was someone who was someone on a crew, I don't know, a production assistant, someone who had posted something on, I don't know if it was Twitter, some kind of social media about his location.
Okay.
He didn't say what show it was, but he said working on a Marvel show, whatever, and then he just posted they were on location at a park or something like that.
Right.
And then he posted it. Within minutes, they said security came in, picked him up, carried him off the set. It was this guy was never to be seen again. I'm not saying they did anything to him, but he was definitely fired.
But no one's seen him since, so.
I didn't know him, right? But he definitely wasn't on any Marvel sets after that. Yeah. So you have to respect the secrecy of it, because that's sort of just part of their world, and MCU works like that. And if I'm ever blessed to work with Marvel again, which I hope I will zip my lips up and not say anything to anyone about it. That's just the way they work,
because it is such a high profile thing. It was again, I say your work on there was absolutely amazing. Did you I don't know if how it works on set on the day. Was Elizabeth Olsen there, or was she put on later? Yeah, she was there.
Yeah. Well, because she was in the scene, so there would have been no way to, separate. If someone's, yes. So she was there, and she was doing her thing at the same time, and she's really great. She's just really talented, and she's really good at that character. Like she's really good at playing Wanda.
Yeah.
And so she had like, you know, I could tell she had like a shorthand with the director where she would go and talk to him and ask questions, and she constantly had ideas, and she was like putting in her ideas and saying, well, what if did that and this and this, and the director's super cool, and he was just like willing to work with her on it, and
Yeah.
it was really nice, you know, to me too. So it was just overall like a positive experience and a positive world.
So what was the best reaction that you got from like friends or family once they saw you in WandaVision after it being so secretive all this time?
You know, it's so funny. The role itself was not huge, right? Because I was technically only in one episode, but the character was so big because it was my mom. It was so important. And the Marvel fans are so intense that though I've done like considerably, you know, like bigger roles significantly before, this one had the biggest reaction from everyone. I got these types of interviews. I got hundreds of emails on Instagram. I think, please do an interview, please do an interview. Tons of podcasts rolled through, tons of YouTube, Insta lives. It was like, and then all my family and friends, people I hadn't spoken to since I was a kid, you know what I mean? Everyone was like writing to me like, oh my God, you're Wanda, you're Irina Maximoff, that's forever. And then I was like, well, like, you know what, it is forever. Like, that's kind of cool because now, you know, if Marvel decides to do a Wanda movie, which I really think they should.
I think they definitely should, yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm the mom. Like now it's sort of like that's kind of ingrained. And so I would love to work with them again. Yeah, so I think this sort of had like the biggest reaction, you know, and then yeah, everyone was very excited and nobody knew, right? So it wasn't like sometimes I would tell people in advance and be like, oh, this and this happened. But in this, and so, you know, see me on this. But in this case, it was like, I hadn't told anyone a thing because I wasn't allowed. And so everyone was like, oh my God.
That's so crazy.
Such a great show and so popular.
Was amazing.
That it was just, everyone was watching it like the second it came out. You know,
WandaVision came out at such like a pivotal time in Marvel, just switching across. It was the first Disney Plus show, but also in the world with the pandemic and everything. How did you feel with that being released and it being, there were so many eyes on it because it was the first Marvel production being released in so long, or the first production of anything really being released in so long?
I mean, I was really excited because I also hadn't worked in a while because during the pandemic, they shut down our entire industry. Like Hollywood closed completely in the beginning of the pandemic for almost a year. It was like 6 months to a year when when we went into lockdown, where nobody was allowed to work. Like nobody was allowed to film anything. So the only people still working were editors and, you know, writers, but who could do it from home, but everyone else wasn't. Now everything is done from home, except for filming like on set, all the pre-stuff, auditions, callbacks, production meetings, whatever, everything's now done from home on Zoom. At the time, you know, it wasn't like that. Everything had been in person before. And so we were just completely shut down for that, like almost a year. And then things started coming out again and we started working again. And then out came WandaVision. And I was like, oh, thank goodness. Like, this is so great that now at this time when everyone is dying for content because there's been nothing for almost a year and everyone's just been sitting at home, you know, rewatching the Tiger Show or whatever. So for all this time, you know, now everyone wants like creative content and now we can finally release it. So it was like it was I think the ideal time.
It was absolutely amazing. I remember I'm pretty sure we was in a lockdown and I was literally counting down the days to it and I just need something to keep me going through everything that was going on. But obviously,
it was a great show.
It was a great show. Obviously another great show that you've been on, Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Very funny. Yeah.
The comedy in that is absolutely amazing. I've obviously seen your episode. I've seen majority of the seasons. What was it like being on there in such like on a comedic production set and working with the other actors?
I love comedy. I love comedy. Like I you know, it's my jam. I mean, I love everything, right? Like I love drama too, but I really like that's my thing, you know, like I would love to be in a sitcom or anyways.
Yeah.
And so, but Brooklyn Nine-Nine was so great in that they allow for improv. A lot of shows don't. A
Right.
lot of shows, especially comedy, are super strict on like hitting the beats and the writing being exactly as it is with the punctuation and everything, because it's, it's written to be funny for that
It's
reason.
pre-planned. Yeah.
But with Brooklyn Nine-Nine, they're super open. They're like, okay, we're gonna do one straight, then we're gonna do one where you improv, then we're gonna do one like this, then we're gonna do one like that. We're doing, and so
Oh, nice.
there was a lot of freedom to like play around with it. It doesn't mean they would use, what you did, or they
Yeah.
could say no, like that doesn't work, but it was just there was more freedom. It also took more time, which means that like the days on set there, instead of being, a 10 or 12-hour day, was more like a 14, 16-hour day.
Yeah.
But you get so much more. You get to try so much more. So I really enjoyed that part of it.
I bet it's really good to have that creative freedom with a character as well, and to work around other actors that are obviously great at improv as well.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah. So including Andy Samberg, what was it like to work alongside him? Because I've seen a bunch of his stuff. I'm a big fan, and I've heard about the improv styles on Brooklyn Nine-Nine that they use of it. What was it like to bounce around on set with him?
Yeah, so he's really talented and he's really good with the improv. And so it's a single camera comedy, which means that it's like a little bit more realistic comedy versus multicam comedy is like bump, you know what I
Right,
mean?
I see what
It'll be
you
like
mean.
bigger. And so, so he's kind of really good at that honed in kind of like funny but straight comedy.
Right.
And he just comes very naturally to him, you know what I mean? And so he'll say things that just work for his character.
Yeah.
And he's got a great banter with Melissa, and so it just worked out.
Do you think has been the best co-star that you've worked with, or castmate that you've worked with? Maybe in terms of who's rubbed off on you more, who you've been able to like get the most from, or who's just been the best to be on set with?
Wow. So I've worked with so many amazing people that I'm like, it's hard to say, because I'm always just like in awe of other people and their, the way they do things. And so I like to observe and see. But in terms of, okay, so one person I can say was really pleasantly great was The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. He's so polite, he's so professional, he's so sweet. Like I really was just pleasantly surprised, because he's like such a big star, you know what I mean?
Huge, yeah.
And you don't expect him to kind of take time for the little people. But he was so nice, like I remember I helped him out with because we were doing a scene in Italian, and so which unfortunately got cut from the movie, and I'm so sad. That's another issue. Yeah, they ended up cutting like half of like 70 actors, 70. So it was a big number.
Right.
But it was because pandemic, they had extra time to remake and edit, whatever.
It's the experience though of still working with someone like The Rock.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And so anyways, we had the scene in Italian, and he had to do like a series of, with other languages, and he was having a little trouble with, because obviously he doesn't speak Italian.
Yeah.
and so I was helping him out with some of the lines, and he was so grateful and they did have a dialect coach on set and everything, but it was like by the time they get to where you are, and we were like on a boat, because Jungle Cruise,
yeah,
they would have to go up. I mean, a fake, but still, they had to go on the thing, and then he was holding me, and so we were like, and it was like a romantic scene, so whatever. There was a whole thing, and then he was like so grateful, and then after the fact, he took me and introduced me to a bunch of the producers, which he did not have to do, and then he was like, Ilana helped me out, with, with the language and everything. And, she speaks all these languages and I was like, wow, that's so cool of him,
That is very cool. Yeah.
So I was just really pleasantly surprised that he was just like very professional. And we had like a kissing scene and stuff, which you can get.
Yeah.
It's not at all like, because you're on set and there's a million people, so it's
not like a kiss. It's yeah.
He was very professional and he was very polite, and so I was just like, okay, he's a cool person to work with.
That is very cool. Yeah.
And then in Nowhere Girl, which was an indie film, but that I adored. All right, that was just like had like a little piece of my heart. I worked with Josh Robert Thompson,
right?
Who you guys may know as, I don't know if you watched the previous Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson, but there was a robot, Jeff Peterson, that everyone loved. So Josh was the voice of Jeff Peterson.
Right. Okay.
So it was super funny. And at the time when we did Nowhere Girl, it was just coming off the Late Late Show when that had just ended. And so he had like a million fans. It was like big deal, you know. And he was like this big name, and we were on set. And I remember thinking, this guy is so funny.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so funny that he would just make me laugh all the time, you know? And so that was just nice to be around someone like that, honestly.
Oh, it's very, very nice experiences then, with obviously quite high profile actors. With obviously the first one that you explained then, The Rock, could we get the people's eyebrow from you?
I don't even, okay, I'm like, I can't even do it, but hold on.
Come on. Oh, we've got it. She smells what The Rock is cooking.
No, let's leave it to him.
Yeah. Leave it to the professionals.
Yes.
Okay, so I thought we could end with, like you said at the start, obviously I'm British, European, and obviously you've spent most of your life in America. I know there's a few, we've not really experienced it in this interview, I don't think, but there's a bit of a language barrier sometimes with some British slang, some of American slang. I thought we could play a little game of Guess the British Slang.
Yay! I love it.
So I've got 6, I think, phrases, words and phrases that you have to guess the definition.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah? Okay, so first one is I'll give you a bell.
I'll give you a bell?
Yeah, so if I was to say to you, I'll give you a bell.
I would think it means you're gonna call me.
That's a winner. That's it. That's it. Yeah.
Well, I do speak 6 languages, so I'm good at
Yeah.
guessing.
yeah. You should be really good at this. Okay, so one for one so far. The second one, if I was to Bagsy something.
Sorry, what?
If I was to Bagsy, so Bagsy.
I guess you would pack it in a luggage.
I see. It's not that. If Bagsy and something is like dibs, I guess.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So if you like, oh, I Bagsy the last piece of cake.
Oh, I love that. I'm stealing it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I feel dumb. Okay.
No. Well, it's the whole point of the game.
Okay.
Okay. So next one we've got taking the Mickey.
Taking the Mickey.
Taking the Mickey.
Taking the Mickey. Does that mean like to? Okay, I have a few guesses.
Okay,
like
let's say
to like a public transportation thing, to take the subway or to take the
No, I see where you're coming from, but no.
Okay, taking the Mickey. Does it mean to be drunk?
No, a lot of our phrases do mean that, but it doesn't mean that. No.
Damn. Okay.
It might help if you say you're taking the Mickey out of someone.
Oh, okay. To maybe to take the wind out of them, you've exhausted them.
Oh no, it's more to make fun of someone.
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have never gotten that. Okay, never in a million years.
It's either it can be used as that, and also like if someone's either exaggerating or they say something ridiculous, like, oh, you're taking the Mickey, aren't you? Kind of thing.
Okay, all right. You know what? I'm writing these down because this is good information.
I'll just send you a full slang list later on.
Okay, good. Yeah, I want that.
Yeah, you'll be fluent. Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. I like the game.
Okay, so with three more. We've got if there's a spanner in the works.
Spanner in the works.
Yes.
Like it's going to be amazing. It's going to be a big deal.
The opposite, actually.
Oh, it's a disaster in the making.
Yeah, it's messed everything up. There's been a huge mistake. It's like, oh, I planned to do this, but there's been a spanner in the works, so I've had to do this instead, kind of thing.
Okay, got it. We'll see.
Okay, so you've got one so far, but 1 out of 4. We've still got 2 left. I've got hope. I've got hope.
I've got hope. Oh,
no. So I've got hope in you being able to get these. So the second to last one, you've got having a kip.
Having a kit.
Kip, K-I-P.
Having a kip. Oh, like throwing a fit, like being upset, and like, is that what it means? Like, no.
No. I can see where you're coming from with that.
To have a snack, like to go grab a bite or a.
No, you might want something to eat after a kip.
To have a drink.
No, you'd probably You probably would have a kip after you've had a drink.
I don't know. Tell me.
Have a sleep.
Oh, really? A nap? Kip is a nap.
You say like, oh, I'm just going for a kip. It just means I'm just going for a nap. Or I'm kipping it tonight. Then I'm sleeping in now. I've picked quite out there ones. And I think this last one, if you've had no context of it, this one is probably the most random out of the 6. So the last one is Bob's your uncle.
Bob's your uncle. Let me think. Like, well, I'll be damned. Like, all right then, Bob's your uncle. I mean, that's how I would say it. Like,
that is how we say it, but kind of in a different context.
Let me think. Hold on. Bob's your uncle.
In a sentence, you might say like this, and then boom, Bob's your uncle.
It's not an expression of surprise or like, wow, I didn't know that. Bob's your uncle. No.
No.
Is it like, haha, got you, Bob's your uncle? No?
No, but it should be used like that. I quite like that.
Okay, so you have to tell me, what is it?
It's more, you say like, okay, well, everything's worked out right then. So it's like, oh, if you go to the shop, if they've got milk, you can get milk. Oh, boom, Bob's your uncle. You've completed your task, kind of thing.
Say, oh, you've completed your task. Like,
yeah, kind of. Yeah, that's probably not the best explanation for it, but it's a Bob's your uncle phrase. It's a bit of a weird one in itself.
Well, I wrote it down, and you're going to see me using all of these phrases tomorrow. Okay, I'm ready. I'm going to study.
The next film or TV series I see you in, you better be like, Bob's your uncle.
That's right. Watch my British character coming out. Okay?
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Well, I'd take a good score on that. I think you've done pretty well with a few.
At least I got the first one. That one I figured out.
Yeah, the bell one. You smashed it.
Thank you. I love London. I've only been there once, but I loved it.
Amazing. Well, thank you very, very much for coming on the podcast and joining us today. I've really enjoyed it, and I think we've had a really good chat.
Thank you so much for having me.
Do you want to plug any of your socials or any upcoming work that you've got?
Well, all my socials are just my name, so you can find me at Instagram, Ilana Kohanchi, or at Ilana_Kohanchi, maybe. My Facebook fan page, Ilana Kohanchi Actress. IMDb is always a great place to Internet Movie Database. Just type in my name and you'll see all the projects, everything I've got going on. So
she's going to do big things.
Hopefully, from your mouth to God's ears.
That's what we're talking about.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.